I have always disliked baths. Even when I lived in Japan, we would go. One of the biggest things you do when you live in Japan, one of the biggest getaways that there is you go to a little inn in the middle of nowhere, and you give them your clothes, and you wear a robe the whole time, and you sleep on the floor, and you take a bath with everybody. Not something that I ever really enjoyed. I once went with some coworkers to this really beautiful rustic place, and we went rowboating, and I put on sunscreen, but I forgot to put sunscreen on the tops of my hands, and I rowed all day, and so I had like lobster claw hands. When it came time to go to take a bath with everybody else just having a normal bath. It's all just a bunch of Japanese people just chattering away, and then there's me in the corner in the bath with my hands out of the tub.
like you're about to go in the OR.
You look nice today.
California King.
Scott, what, I don't think we've ever talked about this before, but what posters did you have in your dorm room?
Oh, in my dorm, like in college?
Yeah, because you're a big reader, so I don't expect you had the traditional, like, Pulp Fiction or Scarface.
No, I didn't have
Poverty sucks.
I didn't have the drawing of what was that, the 80s artist who did like the black and white ladies with one tear?
Patrick Nagel, yeah.
Yeah.
You mean like the Duran Duran guy? You could also get a Frank Frazetta guy with an axe. That's a cool look.
I want to confess something. I think I decorated my college living situations incredibly sparsely. I mean, I don't know if we've talked about this much, but my last year of college I spent in an apartment above the Eagles Club in Northfield, Minnesota. And I think we've talked about this a little bit. There was no shower. There was only a bathtub. And I slept on a sleeping
Eagles,
bag on
the
a
fraternal
bare mattress.
organization?
Yeah, it was an Aerie. I slept above an Aerie of the whatever federation of the FOE, which was basically a bar that I think you had to pay a nominal membership fee to drink $1 natural lights at, something like that. It was great. There was a Taco Bell across the highway, so we just had to skitter over for a 7-layer burrito, come back to my bed, which was a sleeping bag on a bare mattress.
And then you unwrap
brutal.
the 7-layer burrito, dump it all in a pot, cook it on an induction stove.
That apartment was the first of many firsts. There were so many firsts for me at that apartment. I brewed beer for the first time in that apartment. I peed in a Snapple jar for the first time in that apartment. There's one, there's two of us living there, and there's one bathroom. Sunday morning you wake up, and since there's no shower, Ryan's taking a bath. So I hear him in there. It's like quadrophenia. It's just a man in a clawfoot bathtub in the middle of a bathroom, taking his time, and I had nowhere to go.
It sounds a little bit more with Nail and I.
Well, yeah, that's true. It was a strange setup.
There's a picture that exists of me, a self-portrait, if you will, of like from the freshman dorm room bathtub with my legs in the frame, and I'm reading a copy of The Fountainhead. So,
wow.
It's black and white.
Oh, that's like
already
a precursor to George W. Bush's painting of a similar scene.
Yeah.
Wow.
Except I was the fallen warrior or whatever.
First of many firsts. I mean, this is a phrase I've heard used in lots of places amongst families. The guest bathroom. So we only have the one bathroom. And when my daughter decides to take one of her luxurious showers, she seems to time it just at the moment that I have about a liter of urine that needs to go someplace.
Yeah.
And so, there are places where a dad has to improvise, and maybe you have to take the trash down and you go to the garage, But like, I do feel like there are certain survival skills that you learn in college, whether you want to or not. You know, when you need to economize, what food can you tolerate? What was your roommate's name, Scott?
Ryan. His name is Ryan.
Of course. Yeah, you probably couldn't get a Jason, but Ryan's in the bathtub mixing up the medicine.
I was on the waiting list for a Jason for a year and a half. I just
it's a shame. It's it's all who you know, seniority.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also interested in this. I don't know. This is such a missing piece for me is what these organizations are for. The Eagles. Oh,
the Eagles, the Elks, the Odd Fellows.
Odd Fellows. And I mean, I think you've already kind of nailed the fellowship's razor, which it's a way for older men to act like they're veterans and be able to drink inexpensive beers with no women or Jews around. But
right.
like, do you have a sense of, is there kind of a Christian basis? If we did not a Venn diagram, but a mind map, I think you'd have things on here like creepy veterans places. You'd have things like the Shriners. You'd have service organizations. But do you have a sense of, when you create the charter for the Eagles, like what's on the paper?
Ooh, great question. I
have a thought. I'm sorry not to co-opt your answer there, Scott.
No, please.
During this time where those of a certain persuasion are trying to distance themselves from each other, and let's be honest, we've never been a bathing culture, communal bathing culture in this country. Whereas other cultures definitely have been. And the other persuasion seems to be like dedicated to radical proximity, like just unmasked breathing and shouting.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So I'm wondering if there will be such a backlash to the backlash that they would embrace bathing culture and your Eagles club and that could there be an embrace of, radical proximity with nudity, with male nudity, you know what I'm getting at.
Sure.
Where's the opportunity?
Full male nudity, like you leave the robe behind to be with your brothers.
Right, yes,
very tightly packed. Yeah, like big thick sardines, like all in one place, but still probably no women. But they're kind of saying, man, check me out. Like I'm naked wherever I want to be with whomever I want to be, and we're very close.
That's
to
right.
Each other.
That's right.
They're
we're
very
like brothers.
close. They're very drunk, and they're very angry. And is there a business opportunity in here?
Well, first of all, they're very close. They're very drunk. They're very angry. Is such a great tagline for a B movie
for Fox News.
Yeah. Am I right?
Radical
proximity.
Boy, yeah, radical nude proximity of the angry class. Boy, there's so much there. I think there's a lot of opportunity. If you think back to the beginning of this century in the United States, there was, and we've discussed this to some extent before, but there was a spa culture, thanks to radiation and tuberculosis and other things that nobody understood. One of the last ditch efforts that many people attempted was to go somewhere and lie on a bed and then get in some water that was naturally heated. And so there was
it's sort of like a Kellogg's retreat meets a sanitarium.
That's
meets
right.
Dropping your daughters off in Cancun. Like it's a way to get away from all the other people who might have the disease. I always love that phrase, sanitarium. Great Metallica song, but also it's a place where you go when you're a little, but it's also a place where you go where you can't breathe so good. Maybe you're worried you got the TB or Hansen's disease, as we now say. You go to something like that. So but also you think about things like people love to be on boats. Like people love to be on a ship. And like, what's a cruise? A cruise really is a grievance vacation. It's where you go and you get to basically, nobody's allowed to tell you no. The craziest thing you come up with, and I think we could combine all of that into an omnibus project where it would just be like, who do you want to be angry with? And would you prefer to be floating or still? Like the way you order water at a restaurant.
I one of the things that is occurring to me as we talk about this stuff, the cruise or the sanitarium, is those things. At the beginning of this century, you'd have to go to Davos to get like the premium treatment, and obviously times have changed. One shouldn't have to go all the way to Switzerland or some hot spring in Central California to get that kind of treatment. We should maybe leverage what could be a burgeoning relationship with a fraternal organization, an eagle, an elk, an odd fellow. And, let's just deliver big tubs to these big places.
Because they're probably hurting a little bit for fees right now. Let's be honest. A lot of people are dying off.
One must imagine.
One must imagine the fraternity happy, but I agree with you. Like, I know we've covered malls a lot. Let's set that aside. There are smaller retailers that are hurting right now, and smaller, probably fraternal organizations. And Big Tubs comes in, and we're gonna back up your tub. You bring it in. You go in there with your koozie. And also, talking about things you learn in college, you think about something like a roommate match, like when you first show up and they pair you with somebody, usually just to fuck with you. I was with a 16-year-old boy.
Were you really in college?
I was with a 16-year-old boy who wanted to go to Harvey Mudd, but he went to the cheap school instead. He was way too smart, and yeah,
that is the plot of Real Genius.
Yeah,
by the way,
is.
Like you are Val Kilmer in this story. Yeah,
am I the dick nose? The thing is, like, I feel like a lot of the value that we offer in our projects is management acumen and the ability to aggregate and accumulate information, and then not use it that much, but mainly look a way to soak people one way or another, literally soak them. Right. And so Big Tubs is a way where we could do a roommate match for the angry. And so maybe it's also a little bit like, what's that, data farmer site? You go in, you fill out, you say, like, I'm more partial to goats, and I think the trans people should have bathrooms. And then you say, oh, well, you should meet Joseph. He's extremely angry about a lot of the same things, and you would both just barely fit into one big tub. Would you where you flip right, you hit the radio button, you say, okay, a match is made, someone in your area, it's not going to be a Russian woman. No, it's going to be Joseph and Robert finally get a chance to be angry and wet at the same time. They love you. They're also wet already. They're very moist, a lot of them. So if you had excess sweating issues, that just goes into Big Tub,
Yeah. Well, let's remember that, our ultimate goal is to help as many people as possible. And if we make $1 along the way, that's great. Adam, has anybody in your family ever been involved in like a fraternal organization of any kind, or is there a dental thing?
No.
Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's a cult for dads. A cult for dads is what we're really talking about. It's a dad cult, and you would be able to go. I bet your dad had to golf a lot. So in this case, maybe we have like a cart girl, and she literally rides a tiny golf cart, maybe like a Shriner clown car, drives it up to Big Tub, and says, "Can I do anything? Would you like to buy a glow stick or a $1 natural light, or would you like me to pat off a little bit of that perspiration, Joseph?"
Okay. Is this sort of a Hooters kind of situation?
It's a lot like a Hooters.
I mean, a barely big enough hot tub and wings is going to pair nicely.
When we say big, I mean, the thing is, it really could be almost more like a thing you wash a dog in.
A basin, more like a basin.
It's a fraternal basin.
The point is there are sauces involved, and you're going to need some of the sauces are naturally going to fall into the tub.
They say all the money's in sauces, but your dad must have done that. Your dad seems like he's a very go along, get along guy. Is there a quirk? Were there times where you just didn't see him like a dad? Would he go off for cigarettes and come back wet later? Like, what do you have a sense?
It might come as a surprise. My dad was not a fraternity dad. He didn't join in the golf games and stuff.
Wow.
But we didn't do much of that in my family. The only closest thing I can think of is my sister was a debutante, but kind of as a goof.
Oh, wow.
We could use that. We could use that for sure. Yeah.
I like how we often return to Adam's dad because he's the only dad in the group. You're the only one with, well, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you're the only one with just who's had a dad the whole time.
My dad is all of our dads. Oh.
That's like filial ride sharing. In some ways, it's like, dad as a service, or DAS, as you say. My grandfather was real mobbed up in a lot of these, and I only caught glimpses of it.
In organizations, like, are we talking, when you say mobbed up, you almost make it sound like more of the Scottish Rite type stuff, the Masonic stuff, like the secret handshake.
He was in Scottish Rite. My dad was in Scottish Rite. I think we might have talked about this before. My mom was in Rainbow Girls, which today has a different connotation. You got Rainbow Girls in D. Malay. like rainbow parties. That thing that didn't happen with blowjobs, but she was a rainbow girl and it was a service organization. I don't know if there were baths involved. My grandfather was super mobbed up with that and he hated black people. So that was, and said so. He was very, very, very clear about it. He was always underscoring that. And, the symbol for it is like a G for God. And then you got the compass, the Masons. He's a Freemason. My dad somehow got mobbed up in that. My grandfather was like balls deep in this stuff though.
Wow.
And I don't know how high his level was. I only went to the temple one time. But there were a lot of question marks in his life. And from that, you make a leap to something like Kiwanis. And I've met a lot of guys in Kiwanis who are super creepy. They might as well be, priests and whatnot. And a lot of them believe in the Trilateral Commission. So I think there's an area here where we can exploit a lot of, not exploit, we can service. It's an industry that can service a lot of people who feel displaced. What does a man want? A man wants to feel appreciated and he wants to feel special. And sometimes you put him in a tub with another man and maybe that'll work.
Well, one must imagine that if you look demographically, and Adam, I think you nailed it from the beginning with this, when you look demographically at this group of people who are involved in these types of organizations, obviously they tend to be older, they tend to be male, almost certainly the exact demographic of those who feel displaced by the current political currents, right? The current trends in American
the culture is
life.
changing. They feel less valued. They feel economic anxiety. And they feel like there's a concern that their bloodline is gonna die with them, and their son will never get to own a pool cleaning company.
We can disagree with their politics or even their mood, but to some extent we could see a little bit of I don't know, sympathize isn't the right word, just sort of a
certain kind of comity. Right? Like think about when you're on jury duty and you go into jury duty, which I'm constantly on being called for jury duty.
Every year.
I'm always on jury duty. They love me so much. But anyway, the thing is you go into jury duty and you're like, meh. I'm going to hold up my Civil War book like really high ups and hopefully they'll make me leave. But then what happens? You get called to jury duty.
Is that what you do? Do you visibly read objectionable literature?
Oh, yeah. You come in with a box set of the Turner Diaries and you're going to go home pretty soon. But the point is then what happens, you get called to jury duty. And in my case, one time I was on for 5 days. And by the end, I felt like these were my best friends. It was like the end of orientation week. So what happens, the comity comes out of, we're stuck together. We might as well make the best of it. You pick one person to make fun of, one impatient lady, in heels who becomes the floor person. And then pretty soon you're the best of friends. You're exchanging numbers, but you never do catch up with each other, which is kind of how it's designed to work. Isn't that, is it a similar thing, Scott? Adam, do you think you could sell that? Could you sell the idea of a fast temporary friendship with a similarly angry person?
Yeah, I think you could also incorporate the idea of betterment. I think in the same way that Alex Jones has tapped into the nutrition, the supplement industry. I think a lot of these angry men want to be better, but they don't want to like exercise. Completely batshit ideas, maybe incorporating some of like Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Japanese bathhouses sometimes the tubs are electrified.
That's true. This is
correct.
Yeah.
Could we introduce some current into these angry tubs?
Well, here's something, Adam.
Just a little bit of sizzle to the water.
Well, more than that. Lots of people in Japan enjoy going to the bathhouse with many, many different styles of bath, right? So you kind of walk through, it's like an amusement park, but just for water, just for being wet the whole time. And so there'll be a hot bath, there will be an extremely hot bath, there will be an electrified bath, there will be different pools with different things and different levels of sulfur and all that stuff in them.
You get mud, you get soba noodles, and it becomes a little bit like Stone Cold Creamery. If you just want ice cream, you get that from Instacart. But if you want mix-ins, so what we're talking about here is some of those Alex Jones powders might be introduced right into the water for a fee.
Oh yeah, you get
and
a
then
boost.
Electrified.
You
get a booster. You get a big tub boost. Okay.
Yeah,
I think other people would love that. It doesn't need to do anything. They're just happy that it's in there. It's like buying insurance. Like you don't really need it.
But I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, let's just take it where we've been beating around this idea, maybe because we think it's too déclassé, but let's just have 9 goddamn dipping sauces that you get in that are real hot. I mean, let's not pretend like this isn't just because it's maybe proximal to ideas we've had before. You're telling me you don't want to exfoliate in like a spicy barbecue, like a hickory?
That's fantastic. Also, maybe give everybody a straw, like a big boba straw, and at the end of the tub, you drain all the water, and then allow people to scrape off the.
It's basically human stone soup.
Yeah.
You scrape it off and you make that into a dessert like they do in shabu shabu sometimes.
Oh, that sounds, I mean, it's definitely, I've never heard of it before. You know, a lot of these, Merlin, you've got a big, every time I drive through your neighborhood, there's that huge Scottish Rite temple right on 19th, right?
Yeah.
And they're always begging for people to come and use their space for events.
My daughter did a ukulele concert there a couple years ago, so I do believe it is available for rental. I don't know if it has to be ukulele based, but like I got some photos from that place that I will share with you that are pretty goddamn wild. If that's not a dad cult, it's missing its best bet. But absolutely, it's a very, very large building, and it has ominous like seals and symbols outside of it,
which is wonderful. I mean, that kind of thing is, and it's something that we should keep in mind for big tubs.
Iconography.
You want to have iconography. You want to have special rituals. Everybody, you know, let's say, you know, when you're getting into the tub. And it's your first dip in the tub, surrounded by angry strangers. You know, you have to say, like, when your balls go in, you have to say, like, "Whoop-sie." You know, just various.
Oh, I see. It's like it's kind of not an inside joke, but it's the kind of thing like I'm a Marine and I say "hooah." So like maybe you also can earn medals because people love that kind of stuff. You know, like you put on your MySpace page or like the Yahoo Cool Side of the Day. We do that, but for a heavy nude man who's mad.
When I worked at Noah's Bagels, if hot bagels came out, the baker would say "hot bagels," and everybody would have to say "hot bagels."
Exactly.
I proposed exactly the same phrase.
Irashaimase.
Yeah.
That's what we need. So you know, when Randy finishes his long day as an electrician, he wants to get in a tub full of very hot,
fucking angry
honey mustard, you know, and he's soaking into his knees, and then the men around him, they start to do sort of a low hum, and as Randy dips lower and lower, and they pound their chest and hum as Randy dips lower and lower into the 100-degree honey
into the
mustard
pre-soup,
and everyone's doing the low hum around him that rises in both pitch and intensity as he gets closer and closer to getting his waist in. And Randy's balls dip in. He goes "whoop-sie," and everybody says "whoop-sie."
Whoop-sie. Whoop-sie. One of us. God damn it.
Welcome,
That's
Randy.
So good. And also the what's your pee hole? Not the urethra, but the actual hole, the debt ceiling. That thing's going to be real stingy. You know, like you're the kind of person who's like, "Oh, you can't make it hot enough for me." You know, one of those pan man kind of guys who like, I love hot wings. Can't make it hot enough for me because men love to compete. And you get enough hot wings and you bring a dingus, you get a little bit of a zesty zing from the electric sizzle. And Randy's like, "Oh, I think that's 110." They're like, "Yes, that's very good." And then maybe the more hot stuff you can have in your mouth or on in your pre-soup, then maybe you get another medal for that. Maybe it's literally a medal, like in the Olympics. And the golf cart girl, it's a very, very small golf cart, like an adorably. So maybe she's a little person.
You've already nailed it with the Shriners cars. That's a perfect. We're already taking. I mean, one of the things that we have to be conscious of as we, you know, attempt to make our tent bigger and bigger and bigger is to incorporate rituals and rites from all of these different organizations to make everybody feel welcome in this very warm pre-soup. And so Shriner's car is perfect with, you know,
it's an immersive. Here's the thing. Here's the two things I know that I'm walking away from right now is walking away with. I'm walking. But like one is that people love an immersive experience. Like you go to like a pre-feed dinner, or like, you go to like a French Laundry, like Gavin Newsom likes to do. You go there and then you feel very taken care of. Like there's a whole thing, and there's food is always coming, and they're like, oh, here's a little special thing for you. And it's always some fucking pun. It's like peanut butter and jelly. and then it's all made of foam.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I love that.
That kind of thing,
molecular gastronomic quirkiness.
And sous vide, write that down, sous vide bath, because technically it is a bath, but it's immersive. Here's the two things I know. I know people enjoy an immersive.
Before I forget, amuse-bouche. Yeah. This has, I don't know how, but amuse-bouche probably should.
Just one little bite.
That's great.
But people love an immersive experience, and pretty much anything can be made to seem more special and selective. People like feeling special. Men love to feel special and appreciated. So maybe people like a Japanese lady come in and keeps thanking you for what you're doing, to keep her out of the culture. But in any case, like we could call it the brotherhood of whatever we want. It could just be the tub bros. It could be the soup boys. But if you give people medals and put it in a big building where kids used to play ukulele, that's the kind of thing where people they're gonna get on public transit. Maybe it's a co-op. Maybe it comes a little bit like one of those terrible organic food stores where everybody also works there, or like my kids' preschool where I had to go and move rocks and rake the sand for some reason. But like that was part of my paying her tuition, was working there. So maybe Randy. Maybe he has Fridays off, or he's under house arrest, so he can't go too far from where he lives. But he could drive the Shrine car around and deliver the hot sauce and Lay's, because there would be Lay's, there'd be floured Lay's,
right?
And apply ointments to after bath procedures for his.
If you got lobster hands, because you're too hot in pre-soup sauce. Like we're gonna help you with that. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be buffalo sauce. It could be a Vaseline, but it could be some kind of an unguent. But that's branded. Like you go to House of Prime Rib, you can buy their seasoning in a jar, and boy, is it good. Same thing here. We'll send you home with a jar of your own soup. You made it. It's like when your kid goes and makes ceramics and they take it home. Except that's Randy, and he puts it on the shelf with all the other things that he thinks makes him happy.
When you visit the Maker's Mark distillery and they let you dip the bottle in the wax yourself, and then you get to take that home. This is where you can dip your whole body in the wax and then take that home. This is, I think, a great idea. Also, Adam, to your point of amuse-bouche, your tiny mouth treats. Randy can't go to Scottish big tubs every day. He's got to do his work. He's got to drive around town and fix people's minor electrical problems. So when he's away, he can only get to the baths once a week or so. When he's away, he's going to want that little taste of the tub. And so he's going to want to have that little quart-sized version of the bath to heat up and then just dip his fingers into, to remember the experience of his whole body, and friendship.
Or maybe as more of a jelly form, if you could sort of, cube it into gelatinous bite size and then package them up.
It's like edibles, but edibles for anger. And you could have that you take home with you, and maybe we have classes. You raise up, like in D&D, you start out and you're just a wingman. Oh yeah, and you move up through the different classes. You could be like a wingman / monk or magic user or whatever. But Randy eventually his life is going to be built around this. It's kind of like the Proud Boys but wetter.
Yeah.
In some ways, but you're going to feel this obligation. Handshakes. I wrote down rituals. Sure. I love the ritual idea, and I think people are going to start doing that all the time. There are baseball games like doing the wave.
The pseudoscience of crystallizing your own anger
essence.
Yeah, your own essence of anger, and then consuming it in order to to heal what ails you is. That's quite marketable. That's profound.
That's powerful. Right. I think anthropologists would show us 100 examples where that exists around the world. So we're tapping into these very primal rituals that people have to deal with and become worse.
Every time you think about how your almost wife, your ex-girlfriend Barbara, like she would tell you, you've got to stop eating the way you eat, Randy. I love you. and I want you to stay alive. And except now you can literally, you can really dip into your own anger when you think about Barbara and all the things that she did to you and the shit she talked about you, you know, with your friends, what used to be your friends. You don't really have friends now because you're mostly on queuing on Facebook groups. But when you're at the not the club, when you're at the is it a temple, Scott? What do we call the structure?
Great question. Well, let's roll through some ideas. Shrine.
Well, could we go with a military angle where it's maybe sometimes it could be like a Quonset hut, like in Gomer Pyle. There could be some inexpensive government buildings. The thing is, the building doesn't matter. We're just going to put up a bunch of fucking medals and call it whatever we end up calling it, which we will trademark. And you're going to start to recognize that the way you'd. My parents said that my first word was Shell, because I recognized the Shell gas station sign and I would say Shell. I think it's going to be that big. And maybe we'll have pamphlets on how to drive safely and always keep 2 links between you and the person in front of you. Something similar, not a Dutch Shell kind of thing, but American, not a Scottish rite. It's American rights, RIGHTS, right? Do you know what I'm saying? And you know, it's going to be a movable feast. Wherever big tub backs into a building, wherever 2 or more of you are angry in his name, you know, there's soup.
What if you just call it a house the way that Soho House calls their club's houses?
Very inversely fancy.
Yes. But then you name each house exactly as the Soho House houses are named. And there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of address mix.
Is that more Harry Potter or Paris is Burning house?
Well, it's like Bertie Wooster. It's like a London club.
It's a social club for the creative class.
Yeah. So you pay a fee.
I love this.
You pay a fee, and then you're a member of the house, and I think you can visit the other houses around the world. But I think you have a home house, and
so it's a little bit like that secret club at Disneyland. A little bit. It's not at all secret, and it's not fun.
311 or whatever.
I would say the English social club is a good.
Like where you go and sit in a chair and read the paper, that kind of thing.
Yeah, or have dinner, or have a drink, or meet your
be
friends,
dinner.
or
be the soup.
I want to ask you guys one thing. Let's be clear. While we may feel some amount of sympathy for those who feel their lifestyle is being threatened, we don't come from that world, and I don't want us to get too haughty and assume that we know what these folks are really going to like, since
That's
we
totally
are
fair. Totally
fair. We're on the opposite end of the political spectrum.
Let it begin with me, right?
Well, are we ultimately, is one of our goals in the process of tubifying every electrician in America, is one of our goals to convert them or not convert them politically, but to take that anger and to maybe twist it into a more life-affirming form? Or do we have? Is this part of our mission here? Are we trying to?
So it's got an element of almost like AA or something, like where you go in. It's like an AA. So like in alcoholism, you got the what's it called, the conflagration. What's the thing where they sit you down and say how disappointing you are?
Sure.
Confrontation.
The appellate court. Yeah.
The appellate court comes along, and that's where you say, listen, you really need to be doing this thing. But now maybe you do that to other people, and that's part of how you get hazed into the club. But there has to be something to it of you're saying so you twist it like a balloon animal. How do you make the anger grow or transmute? Can we find a positive outlet? Is that kind of what you're saying? We're not saying educate. No. We're not saying
this isn't going to be heavy-handed. It just,
right.
How can we turn this into an experience that will hopefully make them happier people? And we don't want to capitalize on anger without, unless it's a lot of money.
Adam, you love making people happy. What would you do if you had a lot of wet men with barbecue sauce on their dingus? How do you? Can I finish? How do you help Adam? How do you help a Randy? How do you help him? If he's gonna leave here. He's gonna leave here, and he's 2 payments behind on that van, right? He's robbing Peter to pay Paul. Well, contractors work. They're always under pressure because they've always recently ripped somebody else off, and that doesn't go away. It accumulates, right? It builds up, much like anger. How do you help a Randy? How do you help him get through his week in his overdue van?
I think you give him an arc, and it's got to be a longer term arc. You have to note where he started and where he's going to, and I by which I mean the way he tastes to himself. So at first it's going to be awful. It's going to be awful, but you can subtly start to introduce ingredients to his stew that actually end up having Randy appreciate his own flavors in a new and unrealized way. He can have an awakening over the course of many visits to Big Tub that give him an appreciation, an enhanced appreciation of his own flavors and his own value by extension.
This is wonderful.
I think he's going to keep coming back. I think we've done two things. We've made Randy feel better about himself, which will help him treat his family a little bit nicer, and then we'll make some money.
Okay,
but if we and the thing, I'm not saying we have to be weird or weird about it. This is anything but weird. But let's say, a golf cart chichan or whatever her name is. Maybe she drops in a little bit of turmeric or cumin, something, a flavor that Randy's not used to, and you don't tell him that's what it is. You say that's honor. We're gonna do an honor mix in, and this technically makes you more of a veteran. And then over 6 to 9 weeks, he starts realizing his taste is much more patriotic, and then maybe he has a breakthrough. Maybe he's angry in a different way. Maybe we give him something different to be angry about, because variety is the turmeric of life.
That's a great idea. And then one day,
fucking hate Randy.
One day, Randy gets into the hickory barbecue sauce set to 102 degrees, and as he's slipping in, the hums and they seem a little more tender. They seem a little more kind. And as his balls finally dip below the surface, and Randy goes, "Whoop-sie," Mark stands up and says, "There's no mistake here." And Randy realizes this is where he's meant to be all along.
Yeah. God, this is you, brother. Taste that.
Taste that. Taste that now. Taste that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can I get another beer?
This has been You Look Nice Today.
Kenneth on a King.
Thank you.